Underneath the ground is tectonic plates. When they move, they can cause stress upon the rock layers above. When the stress exceeds the strength of the rocks, they break and slip along a fault, releasing energy in the form of seismic waves. This sudden movement causes the ground to shake, resulting in an earthquake. Yeah, all that's irrelevant. Skylands takes place in the sky. As far as core Skylanders go, they're the most forgotten per capita. Sure, all the Spyro's Adventure and Giants cores are well known, but in Swap Force and Trap Team, a lot of those guys don't come up much. And barely any of those guys got any love outside of their premiere game. Sure, Fright Rider and Sunburn didn't, but that's become such an oddity it's something to talk about. The Cursed Fire and Undead reps, banished by Activision. When a Swap Force Skylander becomes so popular that they outlive their game, their success becomes the oddity. Rhino and Roller Brawl, the Blessed Fire and Undead O. The Trap Team cores got no love from Activision at all. The Trap Masters took core's primary use. What's more, traps were newer and cheaper, and minis gave you 2 characters. It's no wonder that aside from a couple of note, Trap Team cores are the most forgotten group of Skylanders. Which brings us to my guy. FistBump's so forgotten you can't even find an HD version of his art online. You can find cut up versions and old thumbnails, but the original's gone. It's lost media because of negligence. No one cared to archive it. If you saw the intro to this video without the thumbnail and title, would you know what Skylander I was talking about? No! Let's talk about the design now. There are many rock Skylanders. But FistBump has something they don't. He's a panda. Except he isn't. Pandas have round ears. He's got horns. What's weirder is he's got shoes. He doesn't wear pants, he doesn't wear a shirt, his skin is as hard as granite, why can't he just have his dogs out? He does have a unique niche that no one else fills. Ugly, angry guy who's all about breaking stuff. He's so dedicated he doesn't even have hands, just smashers. I actually like his Ring of Heroes Awakened design a lot. His figure wasn't very marketable either, so that wasn't on his side. Trap Team's new characters were hit or miss for sure, but if your figure got a cool pose, kids might buy you for that at least. FistBump's just kinda standing there. Why not have his fist slammed into the ground like his attack? Maybe do something like Lightning Rod or Series 2 Prism Break where he impacts the base. He's got this weird lavender paint on his cracks. I legit thought someone poured milk on it when I got mine. I've given our Rocky boy a lot of grief so far, but he's got something no other Skylander has. Everything in his moveset interacts with each other. Every upgrade you get only serves to make his core gimmick stronger and stronger, till the ground trembles by just him walking.
Rock solid!
FistBump attacks by making faults in the ground, then activating them, dealing damage. You can have as many faults as you want, and they can be anywhere. They're functionally very similar to Voodoo's tripwires, except you have to cause the damage yourself. First, let's go over how to make said fault lines. Most importantly, his secondary. It's his longest range option, typically what you'll be using to set up. Fault line slam. You slam your fist into the ground to make a fault line. In Trap Team, you can jump out a fault line slam anytime and still get the fault line. I'd suggest you abuse this exploit as much as possible, since FistBump isn't super mobile. Plus, it also just lets you have more faults out at once. More damage. Woo. His tertiary seismic slide also makes faults. You slide across the ground, leaving a fault behind you. The move has a lot of wind-up, and it doesn't take you very far. Not that everyone has to be Aurora or Flameslinger, but you're almost better off walking. The true use of this is putting down a fault behind you. Maybe setting a trap if you're being tailed. The last source of his fault lines is his aerial move. It makes one fault line. I would not suggest using this. It's the only bad thing in his moveset. Most Trap Team aerials are slow and clunky, but this one's glitchy too. You'll get stuck frequently spinning on the ground through no fault of your own. But Fault Bump doesn't just make lines of fists. He makes cracks too, but only with 2 moves. One's by walking and the other's by pressing primary, so they're both passive pretty much. They only deal like a tiny bit of damage, but they're basically free. Okay, so most of his moveset's making faults, so how do we activate them now? Mostly his primary, Panda Pound. It's your average melee attack and your main method of activating faults. There's your average combo that all Toys for Bob melee characters have, but it activates faults slower than just spamming primary, so you're not going to use it a ton. There's also his priorly mentioned aerial. Again, I would avoid this. Lastly, taking damage. To be entirely honest, I don't get the idea of revenge damage in games. You'd want to reward the player for doing well, and an attack that only goes off by taking damage isn't super appealing to players either, at least to me. But FistBump's already got a lot going on before we've even reached the paths yet, so I don't think it takes away a ton. One of these upgrades is actually just 2 upgrades, so they were already jamming a lot in here. So now we get to where the gameplay diverges, the paths. The top path focuses on 2 things, pure damage and increasing the range of his faults. When faults are activated, tons of pebbles shoot out in all directions while boulders home in on enemies. While the pebbles only do chip damage, the boulders do a huge chunk of damage. The faults themselves also do more damage. And with all three of these, your faults are doing ludicrous damage. This path just makes his pre-path gameplay better, but unlike some Skylanders who have paths like this, his pre-path gameplay already has a lot of depth to it. So just making it a bit more efficient and more fun, I think is actually okay. I can think of plenty of Skylanders who have 3 upgrades for one move, and it just leaves me wanting more. FistBump's top path isn't one of them. Now let's get on to his bottom path. The bottom path focuses around his new bamboo and his aerial. Now when you make a fault line, bamboo comes out of it. You can run into the bamboo to get heals from it. It says sliding into it, you never have to slide into it. His aerial's faster to execute now. A welcome change, but it's not really that much better. But it does make 2 fault lines instead of 1 now, and it also explodes the bamboo for pretty good damage. All good changes, but I still don't really like using it honestly, and I think relying on a janky move kind of holds this path back. Hitting enemies with the bamboo explosion is definitely fun, but you're sacrificing the heals you could get from that bamboo, and you have to make sure the enemies are in the right spot. Not that I don't see the appeal, I run Scottish Resistance on my demo in TF2. The damage is just too comparable to the top path though. You're only really going to get this path for the heals, which is nice for some sustainability, but you're giving up a lot of damage for that. Before leaving the upgrade section of this video, I have to acknowledge a huge caveat with FistBump's gameplay. He's amazing in Trap Team, but in Superchargers and Imaginators, he works very differently. When he was ported over to Superchargers, he went from being able to place infinite fault lines to only one. Probably one of the biggest nerfs ever in Skylanders. Like, one of his bottom path upgrades makes literally 2 faults. If you use that move, it'll just make 2 of them, but delete 1 of them instantly. And if you have his soul gem, just walking around can destroy the fault lines you manually placed. He's gone from someone with a lot of depth and different strategies to someone who's pigeonholed into being a pure brawler. He's still powerful and really fun, but his gameplay's gone from like a vintage wine to a Bud Light beer. Either way, FistBump's fun. I've done a good bit of criticizing FistBump in this video, despite him being one of my favorite Skylanders to play as. So I think I'll top this video off by talking about how I would fix some of the issues I brought up in this video. These are all purely gameplay changes. If you want to hear about visual changes, just make him look like this. Nothing outside of his paths are getting changed, aside from making his aerial and slide quicker. Otherwise, pre-path gameplay's perfect. The top path nearly is too. I'm replacing the pebbles with an upgrade to his tertiary though. Seismic slide goes further and faster. The path's already about high offense, this just gives it an entrance and exit option. It's also a new toy to play with on a path otherwise focused on pure fault damage. A lot more was changed on the bottom path. First off, nothing is tied to the aerial anymore. Even with changes, it'd probably still be too clunky. So now instead, your secondary is going to be making 2 faults now. The second one is entirely random what direction it goes from the player. If it was 2 fault lines out front, you'd just be lowering the margin of error and increasing damage. That's the top path's job. This way you're putting down twice as many faults, but you only have control over half of them. You have to work around their unreliable placement. And as for the heals, you actually have to slide into the bamboo now. They heal 30 instead of 15 now. Now if you focus on healing, you could probably get more heals overall. You gotta put in a little work now though. Lastly, his bamboo explosion is triggered by his combo now. Enemies caught up in the blast get a slowness debuff as well now. With the slowness effect, you'll have more time to set up faults and more time to activate them. With these changes, the top path still focuses on extra damage and room for error, but you also get some more mobility as well. The bottom path still focuses on bamboo heals and explosions, but now with an added focus on placing down a lot of faults. A path on fault quantity and a path on fault quality. 2 distinct playstyles. To conclude, I think everything about FistBump and his moveset is really fun. I like it a lot. He's not perfect, but everything in his moveset has hard synergies with each other. Not many Skylanders have anything close to that. There's no upgrade that doesn't tie into his main gimmick, his faults. Everything is dedicated to upgrading the faults and making fault gameplay better. That may make it sound like he's one note, you could argue he even is. But I'd actually argue that's a good thing actually. Excluding traps, minis, and reposes, there's 167 unique options. 116 of those are in Trap Team. If you don't want to play as someone so gimmicky and quote-unquote one note, you have 115 other options. Someone like Chopper, who has a much more typical moveset, has a lot more to be compared to than FistBump. Lots of Skylanders have that one unique thing that only they can do, but it's barely developed upon in favor of basic melee and ranged attacks that any Skylander can perform. So many Skylanders didn't embrace the strange at all, and I only remember them for their designs. It's unfortunate. Which brings me back to the point of this video. The reason I titled this video The Tragedy of FistBump was for clickbait. But the real tragedy of FistBump is that they gave him this very unique, fun gameplay, but they paired it with a very unmarketable design, so not many people actually got to play as him. I doubt a kid would pick FistBump over any of these other Trap Team designs, but I know the real reason Activision did this. They were trying to stop something.
Knock, knock.
Seeds they make from rocks. They break and slip into falls. Thanks for watching my first video. This took 3 months to make. Thank you to Phaonix for co-writing this video, and he also recorded that last segment. I hope that didn't go a bit too far. Thank you also to Phantom Nugget. He did the thumbnail. He did an amazing job on that. You can go check him out on Discord. He has commissions open right now for $15. Also thanks to RR.Slugger for letting me use his music in my video. He does great YouTube videos on like Lego and stuff. Links to all of these guys will be in the description. I'll see you around. Hopefully around when the U2s is released, I'll have a second video out.